All right. It's first live show for the Joe Meister and I for Hockey Royalty, making it rain. How you doing, Joe?
Doing well, Brandon. How you doing? Nice to be live.
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. It's been a busy week. I know we postponed last week's show because we were both a little busy, and there was only two games. Let's have a little bit of a meatier episode. Go live. Hopefully, we get some people in here that wants to ask some questions in the chat and everything like that. Let's throw up that first banner there, just on the bottom there. But man, it's been pretty good. Some good quality games. Nice homestand from the Kings. Some quality wins for the Reign. It's been a good couple days.
Yeah, with the exception of that Kings game last night, that was rough. I'll be honest. When I saw Tampa was starting 4D, thought it was something that LA'd be able to take advantage of, but unfortunately not the case. But been a decent run for the Reign, a little back and forth. Boy, they've got some crazy lineups lately with some defensemen playing forward, playing with 11 forwards again. It's been pretty crazy, but entertaining games to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, it was like for some reason we can never play well against the Sharks, no matter how good or bad they are. And so that was a kind of a rough game from start to finish.
Yeah.
And then we were there in the Tampa game, and we should have taken that one home. So, but you can't be upset being second in the division. I don't know if we still are, but hey, I mean, I didn't think we'd be there. I thought we'd be fighting for a wild card spot. Plenty of hockey left.
Sure.
But it's been something promising that we're seeing flashes of good hockey play in there, and nice to see some positivity and some growth within the season.
Seems to be a little buzz. There's a little buzz now starting with the Kings. Now they're only a few games back of the wild card. So now, I mean, the Reign have been one of the top teams in the AHL all season, and the Kings now are a team that's second in the division. So things are kind of looking up overall in the organization. It's nice to see.
Yeah, it's great. So let's get started with our first topic. A new prospect got a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, or still is, for the LA Kings, and that's Samuel Fagemo, making his Kings debut. Like, what have you liked about his placement within the team and his play these couple games?
Well, first of all, I just want to say I think it's good. It's good that he's gotten the call, right? I mean, I know they got a lot of prospects, but he's quietly put together a fine season in Ontario. He's got 10 goals. He's got 14 points in 26 games, but it's also he is, and we talked about this with Sixton, how he's kind of quietly become a little bit of a good two-way forward and a good defensive forward. And so the first couple of games there that he's played they've been fine. I think the first game was perhaps a little bit rough, but I think again that's kind of to be expected. He started against Pittsburgh, was his first game there, so I think he's going to take some time, and I think as we've seen, Todd McClellan's going to try to take some time to figure out where he's going to fit, where what line he best suits with, what line mates he's going to play best with, what centers, etc. So. There's going to be some of that goes on that'll take a little bit of time to get kind of sorted. Hopefully he gets that. I mean, for all we know, he could be back in Ontario this weekend. But for now, a decent start, getting his feet wet. And I think that's right now all we can ask for, just to kind of get that experience, is just to start to build that up a little bit.
Yeah, he didn't shy away from taking shots. So you saw him a little bit on the power play. He shot the puck. He's third in the Reign in goals with 10. So like you said, and so it's nice. I mean, he got the opportunity on the first line for a little bit again. I think maybe T-Mac panicked after the Sharks game and put Brownie back up there because I know he was on the third line to start the Tampa game. But he's there to score goals, and he's not afraid to shoot, and they've given some power play opportunities. So we've been somewhat critical of the usage of these prospects, not getting opportunities, and mainly with another shooter in Kaliev. And so he came on and got first line minutes in a couple shifts here and there, got some power play stuff right away. So, the confidence was still there from the beginning of the season. And you really like to see that for a young prospect, especially since, he's getting his cup of tea right now.
Yeah. And I think for all the kind of crap sometimes that people give, not even just McClellan, kind of head coaches in general in the NHL, they'll bring up a prospect that's supposed to be a scoring forward or a playmaking forward, and they don't play him in that role. I mean, Fagemo got the shot pretty quickly right up top, right, with Kopitar. So you have to give him some credit there. These things are tough. I mean, as a coach, you're hoping something clicks right away, right? And you push that right button and it goes. But if it doesn't, you have to weigh that balance of, okay, do I let this go for a bit and let it play out, or is it just not feel right and I'm pulling the plug and I'm going to move them down? And that's, they decided to go that route. Maybe if the game went a little bit of a different direction against San Jose, it doesn't, who knows? But again, hopefully he gets a chance to stick around a little bit and see if he can kind of settle into a role here. But he kind of like Turcotte are two forwards that I think the expectation needs to be that they're going to be more well-rounded, two-way, 200-foot type of forwards rather than these offensive kind of juggernauts. I think what you're seeing from Fagemo, for example, in the AHL, he's got 10 goals and 4 assists. I think that's the type of ratio that you're going to see out of him. But if he can put pucks in the net and be responsible on the back end as well, he kills penalties in Ontario. So it's just something to keep an eye on and see how he gets used here for his duration in Los Angeles.
Yeah, and I think there's some positive stuff that we've seen, right? Kaliev has developed a defensive game, which has been praised, playing on the fourth line with two guys that are very good, puck chasers and everything like that. And then, Samuel has done the same thing in the Reign, playing a lot of third line minutes, at points of the season and being relied upon to use more of his defensive acumen, which is something that, you're being well-rounded. And, T-Mac doesn't like, obviously we saw it with Kovalchuk, the guys that are just pure scorers and don't even try to work on the defense. Kaliev has done that. Samuel's done that. I like that he's not afraid to shoot. We don't want to see people shy away from big moments and go outside of the build of their game. So I really liked both of those aspects with Samuel's start.
Yep, I'm with you. I think it's a good start so far, first couple games, and again, we'll see how long he's here.
So with speaking of start, Brock Faber is going to get a big chance to start for Team USA, getting the Olympic bid. Downside of the NHL players not playing, people who are not under contract with their NHL team get a chance to wear the colors of their home country. Big opportunity for Brock Faber here. How excited were you for a young kid to get this opportunity?
It's awesome. This is one of the things that is perhaps for lack of a better term, a blessing in disguise with the whole situation that happened with not only the Olympics and the NHL, but the World Juniors too. He didn't get a chance to play. Right, that tournament was cut short, obviously. So really exciting for him to get this opportunity, and it's fun. It'll be fun to watch. Maybe with the NHL guys not going, perhaps there's a little bit less motivation for people to watch. But now for Kings fans, if you got one of your top defense prospects going, there's a little bit more of a reason to watch if you didn't have one before. So that's really fun, really exciting. He's an intriguing prospect. He's amongst a loaded right side crop for the Kings, and whether his future is in Los Angeles or with somewhere else, maybe Arizona for all we know. Sorry, wishful thinking. Sorry.
We got the 30-minute bid for the Chikrin stuff later on for potential.
But either way, he's an exciting prospect and a good looking defenseman. Good for him. I'm happy that he gets this opportunity.
Yeah, only played one game for Team USA in the World Juniors in that debacle, and then you're looking. He wore a letter there, and then getting the opportunity, right? And so, all indications or rumors are that he's going to go pro after the end of the season. What a chance because you look at all the other teams still have pro athletes that are playing in their leagues in their home country, especially Russia, and so he's going to have an opportunity to play against pro guys from other countries, show what he can do, play good minutes. I assume he'll be somewhere in the second or third pairing, there, and might have a chance to get bumped up based on his play. We did a whole 20 minutes on him going in the World Juniors and what he does well, which is gap control. And so when you're sound defensively going against pros, it's going to be something that I think he's going to do well in this tournament. He's going to be there, and his strengths are definitely going to benefit him against other pro athletes. I
agree. I think in the way he skates, I think this is going to suit him real well. So I think this is a perfect opportunity for him to kind of to shine a bit more against some professional level talent. I think it's a good opportunity.
So moving on to the next guy, and then thank you guys for coming in, everybody watching, like and subscribe. And if you guys got any questions in the chat, throw them in there for us. Let's switch it over to the next topic here: emergence of young stars. And so, lately with a lot of the call-ups or just the way the season has gone, Madden and Spence have moved up into the top 3 and some individual stats for the Reign. So if you see Madden is second on the team in goals with 11, you got Jordan Spence with 15 assists on the season, and Madden coming in tied for third with Jad for total points at 19. So some of these first year or some of these young pros are really coming into their own as the seasons went along. Out of those, what have you seen from both of them? And then if you had to give the edge to one or the other as far as the emergence, who would you take?
So first, I think if we'll go back a bit, and we talked about Tyler Madden really early in the season, if you recall, and he was playing so well, but the pucks weren't falling.
Yeah.
Then he started scoring. Then he went cold a bit, and he's been great lately. And again, I just feel like this has been coming. His play has been really, really good all season long. I think he's been kind of an under the radar prospect, if you will, for the Kings because they have so many other guys that are a bit highly touted, and they didn't draft him, so maybe there's part of that too. So he's been one of my favorite forwards to watch all season. I think he's been a bit snake bit before, and recently he's been playing on a line with Gabe Vilardi. And Quentin Byfield. I'm drawing a complete blank, and that line has been completely dominant since they've been put together the last handful of games or so. And I think that's really propelled his game in Tyler Madden. So that's been great to see him kind of elevate his game once he's been put around with some better players. That's been great. He's been a staple on the power play. He's been in that bumper role often, and he's doing a real nice job there. So he's definitely doing a nice job. I think for him physically, he may have to get a little bit stronger. In terms of where his next step is in. I don't know that I see him getting a call to the NHL this year, but I think he's certainly making a little bit of noise on that front. Spence has just been awesome from day one. He was a guy that we talked about in the preseason. I mentioned it in the preview piece was there's so many tools here, but is his skating going to take the next step as he jumps to the pro level? And no question, he is passed that test with flying colors. He's been outstanding. He's the Reign have hardly missed a beat since Jersey has been off of the top power play unit. He's been up in Los Angeles, of course. Spence has been fine. Really exciting to see Jordan Spence and the way he's played the game. So I guess I would say coming in, because it's his first year, he came over in the trade. So his first full year with the organization, he came over with a trade from Vancouver, Tyler Madden. I'm going to give the edge, though, to Jordan Spence, I think. The expectations were so much – maybe I shouldn't say they were so much lower, but it seemed like he was really going to get – in the early part of the year, he was alternating with Grons, like in and out of the lineup. They were going to really take their time, and then some injuries and things happened to where they called up some guys, and all of a sudden Spence is playing every day, and he doesn't come out now, and he shouldn't. So I've been thoroughly impressed. And listen, he's somebody that could step in. I think you couldn't hand him 20 minutes a night in the NHL, but you could spot him in third pair minutes and get him on the power play, and I think he'd be effective. Similar to kind of how Jersey has gone, to where he plays power play really well. I think Spence could do the same thing. He's that talented, and he skates that well.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you, and I really was. There's two great stories for both. You have Madden, who was a third-round pick, was in line for the Hobie Baker Award and then hurt his hand. You have Spence, a fourth-round pick, who's played in more countries than I think almost anybody has, being from Australia and then Japan and everything like that, and really just super outproducing his draft stock there. I think you have either or, but a lot of people put more pride in defense and what we want to see there and how we can get more goals and stuff out of our defense core. And so whether he and a trade or he steps in on that right side, and a couple of years ago, you wouldn't be saying that, Walker and Roy are dispensable, but when you see Grons and Spence and Faber and all these guys, Clark, the right side might be pretty juiced coming up in the next few seasons there. So definitely something to take a look at. I would agree with you and give the edge to Spence, just because the special team woes have been evident for both for the Kings, not for the Reign. We're first in the division on the power play, but a big part of that is Grons and Spence and Jersey when he was there, and so that's nice to see. And when those prospects take the next level, you're going to see that there. So Looks like we got a question in the chat here. Thanks, Richard, for joining us. Let's throw that up there. It says, do you believe that Byfield is the missing piece as a center for the third line? For the Kings, what kind of player would you prefer they trade for, a top 6 forward or a top 4 lefty? So let's take the first question there. If you want to answer that, is Byfield the missing piece as a center for the third line?
I sure think so. And I think that we talked earlier a few weeks back in a month or so when everybody wanted Turcotte up, and I was kind of really pushing the pause button on that. I'm not for Byfield. He has looked awesome. He's on a roll right now. The production is coming, but even when he wasn't scoring in those first few games, you could tell his play was already there. A couple of games of kind of refinement. Then he had the COVID, so a little bit of a conditioning here. I think he is a dynamic player, and I think he can hit the ground running in Los Angeles if the Kings choose to do that, which it certainly seems that they are going to, right? It sounds like he was going to make the team out of camp at this point, given, as Richard's alluding to, kind of some struggles on the third line, at least in terms of consistency and finding what is that trio going to be. I think he could absolutely be the missing piece to the third line. Yes.
Yeah, you're dealing with a lot of injuries and COVID stuff here. So there's, players like Athanasiou who are practicing again and all that kind of stuff. So how does that shake out? But I think, if I were to pick a player that the T-Mac quote about, you could take a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, is on Kupari. Even though he had a point this last game, his number one asset is his skating and taking that puck to the hole, which he did routinely in Liga and in the Reign last year. And it just he seems to be scared to take that extra gear and go to the net, which we've seen be beneficial for Kempe. And so does Byfield have that fear? It doesn't look like it. I mean, he's always around the net. He's always around the crease. And, you don't lose any defensive acumen. He's good at chasing the puck. He's good at creating those forecheck and back checks. And so I think that Byfield, I don't know if you consider him the missing piece, because there's probably going to be a learning curve just for him as well as everybody else. But after a couple of games, you've seen Turcotte get better, and Kupari's been up there and well-deserved, because his last year on the Reign, he was one of the best, the top 1 or 2 on the team. But, there's only so much spots. Maybe that'll move some stuff open in the trade deadline aspect of the season, where maybe you see Byfield both be on that line, bring Velarde back up. We'll see if they plan on moving. I know Blake said that they're going to be buyers, and how that would go. And that goes directly in the next question. I think the top 4D is a more specific type of player. So if you were like a big, like a Chychrun type trade, might be a little bit harder to come by because the package is going to be more delicate. And maybe you get a top 6 piece, that's a rental going this year, that the cost isn't as high if the Kings are a first or second seed going into the playoffs. I know Joe just is not a big fan of that for the rental, but I think that the Kings would prefer to get a piece like Chychrun, who has years on his deal, who is an elite player, who's going to be there through the times of when we are an actual contender, which I don't consider us right now yet, because it hasn't been proven for a long enough period of time, versus a rental top 6 forward this season.
So this is a great question. I actually was thinking about this, almost the same exact question earlier today. I am of the belief that they can kind of make their way with the forward. They could probably get away with not even adding a forward. And I know that may sound crazy, but I think if you think about it, you've brought up Turcotte. Let's see how he goes here. Give him an extended run. Byfield, in theory, is going to bring production to that third line. Kempe will be back, and the way he's playing, and listen, you and I disagreed on Kempe at the start of the season, and I've seen how wrong I am. So he is a top line guy that can play with Kopitar. So I actually think, because of the emergence of Kempe and because of how well Deneau is playing, you put Byfield in, and you've got Turcotte now in the third line. And I have been saying this since he got demoted to Ontario. I think Gabe Velarde has all the tools in the toolbox to be a top 6 scoring winger, whether it's with the Kings or if he's in a deal. So I actually think that they can get away with not acquiring a forward. I guess if they do get come deadline day, if they actually are like, okay, now we just need that one extra veteran forward piece, I'm okay if it's a cheap rental, like cheap. But at that point, I guess what player are you getting? I would rather see them do the forwards from within because they got all of these guys, and let's see how they go. My priority is that top 4 lefty, because if they don't address that, maybe they sneak into the playoffs. They're not going to, once you get there, you're not going to beat a team with what they're going right now. I mean, Olimata is playing a regular shift. I'm sorry, but that can't happen. It's not fair to expect Jacob Moverari to jump in there either, frankly. So they don't have that guy that's ready yet to come up.
Yeah,
like Moverari there. So
you make a good point. You make a good point. I think I agree with you in the fact that you could name a handful of names. Furt came up and showed that he was competent on the power play. You have Kachev, who is still top 3 on the team in points and assists. You have Turcotte, who is only going to get better as he's moving on. You have Velarde, who's played minutes. And I'm already with my hand here at 5, and if you include Byfield, who on the left side of the defense is like chomping at the bit, right? That would be the trade candidate that I would go for. And to be honest, like we talked about it a couple times, and we'll keep this brief, is that I mean, even if we're contending on some of the 1-year deals, like we've seen players earn spots like Kupari and Turcotte. Maybe you just trade away Athanasiou, get a pick, and he's a 1-year guy, and you make the room less congested for players who have earned it. But I think that there, like you said, there's players available for forward. There really isn't in the pipeline for left shot D that can make a impact on this team right away. So let's go to the next question before we get to that one in the chat. Let's go game 1 against San Diego Gulls, right? So this game right here, you're looking at 5-4, so back and forth. Ontario, I thought, dominated this game for the most part from the get-go, and it was just one of those things where the Gulls seemed to just pounce back here and there. The power play woes continue with allowing one early in the second. What did you see from this game?
I think you're 100% right, by the way, that they dominated the game. And the shot attempts that I tracked, they were 68% in the Corsi 4, over 60% at 5-on-5, dominated the high danger. I mean, this was all Ontario, and it could have gotten it could have been even worse from a scoreline standpoint than it did. But Jordan Spence gets his first professional goal in this one. That's kind of started a little bit of a run that he's been on of 6 straight points. This was a solid game all around. Again, a dominant performance that it probably didn't even have to be quite as close as it was. And it was great to see Fagemo put in the overtime goal too. I think that was awesome. So good on him. And again, he started to put a little bit together there, get a little bit of a stretch of goals and some production there, which probably aided in his getting called up. But a big win in a game that they dominated. You hate to see them lose a game that they played so well in, and so they were able to come out with the 2 points, which was huge.
Yeah, 2 for 5 on the power play, so you like to see that there. The typical TJ Tynan game with 4 points in this one.
He's so good.
Or is that 4 or 3? I think he had 3. No, 4. Yeah, he had 4 points in this one. 4. So definitely player of the game there. Just really took it to them, and that's what you like to see. San Diego's a big rivalry. They have we've seen some tough games as far as physicality this season from that rivalry there. Brendan Tracy is a guy that has been up and down with the Ducks. And so, you're really seeing something there. And then, a good thing is Quentin Byfield, right? He got off the silent street the game before. This one adds another goal into it, gets us what we eventually will see as a point streak. And really something you want to see from fans, because people are like, oh, where's Byfield? Like Richard alluded to. But for me, if he's not scoring points in the A, regardless of how good he looks, I wanted to see him get some confidence before he gets some minutes on the Kings. That's just my personal belief there. But we would really like to see it there. Get 2 key points. I know San Diego is a little bit lower in the standings with being where are they at? I thought they were 6th. Let's see here. Overall. Nope, actually they're 8th. They moved down to 8th. So, that's a team that we should take advantage of. and really get the 2 points there. All those games don't they seem a little bit closer than them being second to last in the division every time we play the Gulls. So
I know.
But good to get 2 points there. So before we go to game 2 against the Heat, let's go into the comments and answer this one here. I don't want to butcher your name. So HA there with the question. Do you think Jad has lost a spot on the team? I assume he's alluding to the Kings and is a trade candidate at this point.
I hesitate to say that he lost his spot. I mean, obviously he very quite literally lost his spot. He was sent down today. So like in the literal sense, yes, he did. Like long term though, I still think he's a guy that can be a role. Like if you fast forward to next season, like as well as Blake Lizott's playing, will the Kings bring him back? Right? Could that fourth line, center line, or slot be Jared Anderson Dolan? I think that's conceivable. I know a lot of people wanted that this year. I think that's still in the cards for next year. I don't know that there's a trade there because I don't know how much trade value he has. I've talked about how I've liked his game quite a bit in Ontario. I think he's done a nice job. Both ends of the puck. He plays the penalty kill. He plays the power play. I think he's been a very good forward in Ontario at the AHL level. He probably could benefit from like an extended look, even on a third, fourth line role with a team. The Kings have a lot of bodies. We've talked about this, so it's going to be tough to find that consistent time. I don't think that they've lost. I don't think he's lost his spot in terms of like the organization. I still think he's a guy that I think that they're going to try to keep around. And we've seen that they're going to utilize these guys that can go up and down, and they're going to plug and play. I kind of think it's probably smart. Asset management to you're not losing. I know a lot of people wanted certain guys waived here and there, and they've been hesitant to do that, and they want to, if they can move guys down, up and down, then they're going to do that. And it seems like Jod maybe is right now in that spot, but I still think there's a chance that perhaps next year, depending on what they decide to do with that bottom six, there could be a role for him.
Yeah, I think you look at anytime he's a second round pick, played well for Team Canada. He's developed his skills this season as we thought he needed to on the power play and add an extra skill set to his game, playing that down low role that we've seen quite a bit. He has third on our team in points with 19. So he's putting the points up. He's doing well for the Reign. And just flat out Lizotte outplayed him on the Kings this season. Cool. And there's no shame in that because last year that wasn't the case in my opinion because he was putting up those goals. You said it was a shadow. Those were shadow numbers because of the shot percentage was too high for him to be consistent in that factor. And he didn't get a long enough look this season for that to be true or false. But we're seeing that he can score points in the Reign. And why wouldn't you? Like depending on the piece that goes out or the team that you want, like you could see Chikrin's the biggest name out there in the Chicken trade. If he's the secondary piece, he could probably play third line minutes for them this season in Arizona. And be feasible, or at least fourth line minutes, and be feasible for that team. And he's a former second round pick. I don't know if you agree with me. I think his trade value is probably around the same as around a second round value because he played good in the World Juniors. He's showing he can play good on the Reign. He's played decent for the Kings. So he's probably got a second round value in my opinion.
He leads the Reign. A team with Martin Ferk, Velarde. I mean, Byfield hasn't been here long enough, but he leads the Reign in power play goals. He's tied with Ferk. Like he's among the league leaders in power play goals in the American Hockey League. So he is, it kind of goes my argument, seeing that maybe he can't keep up the goal scoring, but in the AHL he's showing that he can. So again, that's why I don't think that they're going to dump him. I think they'll keep him because I do think that they see a guy that could be a valuable player for them.
I agree. Let's move on to the Stockton Heat game here. So Stockton Heat game we have. It's loading for me. Here we go. 5-4 Heat. We needed this big game. We talked about it in our last podcast, fighting for the number 1 and 2 spot on the standings there in the Pacific. This game was the exact opposite. I mean, I was surprised it was 5-4. Just completely outshot by Stockton. Positive on this one, I would say. Oh, no, the first goal was a power play goal. So, again, consecutive games with another power play. Both teams 1 for 2 there, but totally outshot 46-27. Did you see anything different in this game? And maybe what did you like?
Well, I actually liked and we meant to go back really quick to San Diego. Lucas Perique makes his AHL debut.
Oh, okay.
Sparks got hurt, and so Perique makes his first start for the Reign this season, and I thought he played really, really well for 2 periods. Then he made a few saves early in the 3rd period, and so it looked like Perique is stepping up in a game where they obviously need him to, where they're getting outplayed a bit here. And so they had a 2-goal lead like midway through the 3rd period, and that's not something we've seen the Reign lose this season. So they let a 2-goal lead slip, and then they lose in overtime, and it felt like just watching the game, like, boy, that type of loss hasn't happened this season. Like wins and losses happen. That one where you blew a 2-goal lead late, losing in overtime, and then you have a week off, almost a week off, like, boy, that was a little bit of a tough pill to swallow from somebody watching it. But in terms of some positives, yes, I thought Lucas Perique played well, and you still had guys that were in streaks or production in terms of Byfield and Fagemo. They were still putting pucks in the net. They were on the board, so that was still rolling. So it's like you still had these guys, Madden and Spence, still chipped in points too. So it seemed like for everything that went so well in terms of production wise and play from Perique, for it to slip, that was a little tough to see. But they bounced back. We'll see. They bounced back at least. But that's tough loss given they had a 2-goal lead when they did.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised we had a 2-goal lead, to be honest. And like I said, I thought they were peppering us. Good on Perique for keeping it as close as what I thought it was going into the 3rd. And so, positive in this game. QB keeps up his point streak, 2 points in this game. You're seeing guys that we want to see come up to the Kings level now continually produce, right? And so you're seeing, Fagemo there, QB get another 2 points, Velarde with some more points. And so that's definitely a positive there. And you like to see it against the top teams, right? I mean, the Gulls have always played us tough, but you want to see them rise to an occasion against, knowing that the division lead is eventually going to be on the line with the Heat and continue to nip at their heels in the standings and take 2 points. Too bad we only got 1 in this game, and we couldn't put them away. But the young team with a lot of players on COVID and getting pulled up, you might see that this season, and hopefully towards the end of the year they can start putting some teams away.
Yeah, I think it's all it was. It was a tough loss, tough to see. With the way the Perique kind of, as you alluded to, kept them in it, but unfortunately, at least they bounced back. But it was a tough loss.
We go to another question in the chat there. Thank you guys for asking us questions. Long off here says, seeing Velarde produce in Ontario, it is looking like he has changed and has become a more positive influence for the rest of the season of that team. And I'll take this one as positive influence. We talked about it a lot. He got thrown into the fire as the 2C in the Kings, asked to do a lot more outside of maybe what he was used to. Only got a handful of games in the A to begin with. And so really, he's still a young pro, then going through all that COVID stuff, alluded to having some issues with the quarantining and not being around people and doing all those things. And so we wanted to see, Joe and I, him reset when he came down to Ontario and be a more positive influence like you're seeing in Longoff. And I think we are seeing that. He's scoring. He's, he did have that little jab in the interview saying that he'd rather play center, but I think he's been effective on the wing and shooting the puck really well, which I think is his greatest asset. And I don't think he becomes a center in for the Kings going forward, outside of injury. But you and I both see him as a top 6 winger, and so being able to do that and use his shot, be effective on the power play, I do like that he's been a positive influence. And you and I both hope to see him after. Probably we think the trade deadline to come up for the playoff push as a offensive influence for LA.
Yep, I thought a move to the wing would do well with him. And listen, for all intents and purposes, that was probably going to happen at the start of the season, but Byfield got hurt, and that probably changed a lot of things. And him going down to Ontario and producing that nearly a point a game the way he has only reaffirmed my opinion and belief that I think he's got all the tools there to be a top 6 scoring playmaking forward at winger, I should say. And that can be with the Kings. That's why I said earlier with Richard's question, I think they can address the forwards from within. And I think Velarde can be a big piece of that. I've been really impressed with his play. in Ontario. He played the first spot on the power play, scored a power play goal the other day. I think he's been great. And I think that if they want to give him more time to season him, continue for him to get used to that wing position, no problem with that. I think that makes a lot of sense. But at some point, if they do need a guy to play up in the wing, up in the lineup, I'm all in on Velarde. If as long as he's in the organization and is not traded, I'm a believer in him. Yep.
All right, we had a back-to-back here with the Henderson Silver Knights. Moving on to the next topic here. Always a tough team. I think it's just because the fans don't like that the name is so close to the Golden Knights and their disdain for Vegas and anything in that area. So the Silver Knights have there's been some trash talking. There's been some close games. There's been some jostling back and forth. There was a little bit of that in these two games. As you look with the penalties there in the first game, you have 6 there for Henderson and then 6 for the Reign, going back and forth. But overall, capitalizing on chances. Reign pulled this one out 5-2. What did you see in this game, and really what stood out to you?
Well, I was happy to see Matty Villalta back. He hadn't played in quite a bit, so this was his first game back. Played very well.
Got the third star.
Yeah, he strung together some really good performances. So that was the biggest thing for me. And also, listen, we just talked about how they had a kind of I termed it as a gut punch in my post game, which maybe is a little dramatic, but it just had that feel to it. And then you get a bunch of days off where you don't get to hop right back in and play another game. So you weren't sure how they were going to come out. But it was they played a very good game. They were the better team most of the night. And Villalta was there when he was called upon. So I was just very impressed with the way that they bounced back from a tough loss against a rival team in Henderson.
Yeah, it was really nice. And Henderson's right behind us in the standings, right? So they have 35 points. We have 41 after these games this week. And so, that's a big 4 points up for grabs because they played each other back to back. It was a home and away. Which you don't really see much in the pros, but they see it quite a few times in the AHL. So you have to get those points because we were clear in first place in the beginning of the season, having that hot run. Heat kept it up. We kind of faltered a little bit, but we don't want to drop too far. And the Reign have done a pretty good job at keeping it up with the amount of transactions, which I'm sure every team has had to deal with there. But 5-2 is a big there. You see the point streak continue for QB. We love to see that. Tyler Madden moves into the top 3 in goals on the Reign with an absolute snipe on that power play. And this game, positive is we went 2 for 5 on the power play, but we allowed another power play goal. And if anybody wants to view Joe's article about the power play woes with the Reign, it's very interesting. We're seeing a lot of those cross ice passes. They're not able to take away the passing lanes. I believe that if I remember this game, I watched all 3 of the games this morning. So like we were talking about before the pod, Joe, some of those kind of blend together. But I believe the one on this game for the power play, cross icer, wide open, and the goalie didn't have a chance, if I remember correctly. So just, we got to clean those things up, especially for the Kings as well. And so that's an organizational defect there. But overall, outshot them, outproduce them in every single period. There, Velarde with another goal, Tynan with the 2 more points. We've been talking about Tynan nonstop. Moves up to 5th, even after his stay with the Kings in the AHL and scoring. Right, so 23 games, 6 goals, 28 assists. 34 points, guys.
I'm pretty sure I can pick up I think I could pick up a couple of goals playing with Tynan. He's ridiculous.
Well, your skating is very underrated, so
he's so good. So good. It's not many players have dominated games the way he has. He's impressive.
So, I mean, he's probably going to be I would say he'd be in line for a MVP nod again, depending on how much more time he gets with the Reign versus maybe some call-ups here and there. So that's something to take a look at. When we move on to the next game here in Henderson, another 5-2 victory.
Yeah, and again, good to see Villalta. Villalta too. Again, the guys that we've been talking about in terms of streaks and stuff. Villalta picks up QB, Madden, Spence, these guys, and obviously Tynan because that's just what he does. But these guys they're hot. They're getting hot, and they've been producing at a regular rate. So again, that was good to see. And again, Villalta was very strong in this game. And I think that especially starting in the second game of a back-to-back and a home and home, so where there's a little bit of travel, you haven't seen that much. They decided to stick with him. I know Sparks is hurt, but they decided to stick with Villalta, and he played really, really well again. And I think that's great because he had a stretch there for a bit where he had 3 or 4 games in a row where he gave up 4 goals. And so things started to get a little shaky there, but he's been really good since. So that's a big takeaway for me.
Yeah, you got to see the goaltending was a big key to the Rain's success this season. We had Matty V on, so if anybody's here watching did not see that, go back and watch that episode. Matty Villalta, thank you again for coming on. But he talked about his technical going across the crease, being more stable within his own body, not trying to make the flashy save, just the correct save. And we've seen that in a couple games where we've seen old Matty Villalta and maybe the defense didn't really help him out in those games either. But some of the games where he's really locked in, that's the difference maker for the Rain. And you really see that with how, the penalty kill doesn't do him any service. And so he's got to come up big 5-on-5. And Matty, to his credit, has done that most of the season. So really like that there. And in this game here, another point streak continues for QB, first star of the game there. Austin Wagner gets a point for the first time in a while. It's something there. 2 for 4 in the power play. Ontario first in the division on power play with 25.4%, up from last time in our podcast. And the PK is at 8th at 73.2%. Even though it's up from last podcast, that is still garbage, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, a quick shout out to Pavlichev, Nikita Pavlichev, the baby giraffe, picks up his first AHL goal on that in the second Henderson game too.
Not a goal line that you would typically see from the Rain. Pavlichev from Iverson and Castadal.
Yeah.
So not a typical storyline from them this year.
Castadal, by the way, played forward too. He's a defenseman, was asked to play forward. We talked about how short they are, and so credit to him. He did a good job. And
then a nice line from a lot of emerging players to put away this game in the third, with Jordan Spence getting the goal from Tyler Madden and Velarde. So. Two statement games. You're coming through. We talked about it from the first game, right? Rain are right behind them. A lot of chippy stuff that extends from the Gold Knights, Silver Knights every time they come in there. And so it was a statement, outscoring them 10-4 in back-to-back games, really coming in. And like you said, off the game with the Heat where they got embarrassed by giving up that 2-goal lead. And so really something for the Rain to build upon going into the Abbotsford game. Let's answer some questions here before we get into the Abbotsford game and our Rain star of the week. Right now, we got Richard with another question. Thank you, Rich, for coming back in. Velarde, when called back up to the Kings, be on Byfield's wing. I like the chemistry they've shown in Ontario.
That's a great question, and I'm okay with it. I mean, I know I've been talking about how I can see Velarde as a top 6 winger, but if you're looking at you've got Dano, Arvidsson, and say Athanasio when he gets back, if they put him there, and if you put Iafallo still with Kopitar and Kempe, that opens up that spot. Now, obviously, there's going to be an elephant in the room whose name is Dustin Brown. Where does he play? Where does he go? What happens to him? But just in terms of answering this question, I think that's a pretty interesting fit. And I think you start to look at a 1-2-3 down the middle of Kopitar, Dano, Velarde, Byfield. You could have something going there. So, I like that fit.
Yeah, you talked about the draft earlier, and you're right. The elephant in the room is Brownie. Was definitely not effective on the first line, in my opinion. Last night, you looked at it has an odd season. He's near the top in goals on our team, been bouncing around. I think maybe the veteran presence on the third line is where you like to see him. But I'm a big fan of pairs, and pairs breeds confidence. If Byfield and Velarde are showing that in this level, it's definitely something to see. I believe Byfield would get the nod earlier than Velarde, so maybe we see Velarde come up and have that established chemistry when he brings it up there. And then maybe Velarde earns the spot into the top 6 by pushing the the needle a little bit forward. Biggest knock on him is his Corsi 4 and not generating enough shots on his own and not being a driver from the center position. So maybe on the wings, that'll be something there. But like I said, you have the elephant in the room. Like, where does Brown go? Moore's been effective on the second line. Does he stay there when you get Kempe back, right? So, or does Moore go down to the third line? AA is going to be there. We've said it over and over again. There's just not enough room there. That's why we're not opposed to the Kings getting rid of players like Athanasiou at the deadline, to make more room for these guys who are producing, who are showing spurts there and trying to poke their head into the lineup. We've seen in the last couple times there. Let's move on to CJ's question. Hey guys, do you have any new information regarding Robo? It's been over a month since his leave of absence. I really hope he's okay and returns at some point. Thanks. Go Rain, go Kings, go. Unfortunately, we have not. I know we've reached out from Hockey Royalty to Jared Shaffrin in the Rain. No comment. The original thing was please be respectful of Robo's time away. So I really think that the Kings are trying to honor that by not giving too much stuff. I don't know if you've seen anything, Joe, regarding why he's actually left and if there's any timetable to return. All I know is we wish him all the best, regardless of whatever it is he's dealing with, and get him right first. That's the most important before he comes back and coaches the Ring.
Yep, completely agree. And no, I have not heard of any specifics. I'm not sure whatever it is. So whatever it is that's going on, hopefully hopefully he is okay. And I've talked to some people that know him because he used to coach out here in Rochester for the AHL team. Played in the same men's league as him. By all accounts, he's a great guy. So hope all is well with him and his family.
Agreed. Moving on to the last game here. A little lackluster with the Abbotsford Canucks after two back-to-back 5-2 games. This one was not exactly a barn burner. 2-1 for Abbotsford there. You're looking at Abbotsford won in a shootout. They tied it up in the third period with the 14th goal in the season from Sheldon Dries. Cameron Gauntz gets a goal in the second from Jordan Spence and Tyler Madden. So the Spence keeps the assist train going. But positive in this game, no penalty kill goals for the Reign. Abbotsford 0 for 5. So even though we lost this game, that's where I'm going to put my positive. 0 for 5 for Abbotsford on the penalty kill. Boosting up those numbers there for the Reign. I know Joe just giggled, but we got to see improvements if the team's going to make a run in the playoffs. What
was interesting, there's also no power play goals. That was for the Reign.
Debbie Downer right there. I was not going to allude to that. Come on.
What I mean is that's been a rarity this season where there's been nothing in terms of special teams. It's just the third time all season where there's been no special teams. And, for whatever reason, Abbotsford, these two teams play tight games. I think this was their sixth one-goal game.
Yeah.
I think fifth that has gone to overtime or a shootout. So I'd said it in the pregame, like this is for all. This should be a tight one. And even in looking at the averages in terms of their shot attempts throughout the season against each other, they've been pretty close. So it was another good one-goal game, and freaking Sheldon Dries buries him again. I think he's got 9 points against the Kings this season, including 7 goals. So they just have not been able to keep him off the score sheet this season. But a positive for me, I've said him before. Again, Matty Villalta, his third straight start, gets third start in 4 games, and another good one. So he was very good. And listen. Artis Seelovs, the goaltender for Abbotsford, he stopped Byfield, Velarde, and Madden in the shootout. So full credit to him. He played a great game too for Abbotsford and net. So tough one to lose, but it's always a tough one, it seems, with these guys in Abbotsford.
Yeah, if you're looking at a good game for Matty V there. Jordan Spence gets another point. Just another squeaker, right? And you're saying Dries is just like the Lex Luthor to Superman, man. He just every time he seems to score a good goal, or when Abbotsford needs it, he's always there for points, and it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, I had put in the preview stopping Sheldon and said if they can find a way to keep him off the score sheet, and they didn't. He finds a way every game, but a good game. Obviously, you hope to come out with 2 points, but and what was the Reign had a power play in this one in overtime. And this is not the first time that they've had a power play in overtime against Abbotsford. They did this early in the season, didn't convert. Everything was perimeter. They moved the puck around the perimeter. They never really got anything of high quality at all on net. There wasn't much. They were in the zone the entire 2 minutes, but really didn't get anything overly threatening, in my opinion. So that was a little frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, you got to pull that trigger there, especially in overtime, getting the 4-3, especially with how dangerous they are, and bury one there. So before we get to our rain of the week, we have Tim Coffey with a question here. It says, with Jack Jablonski moving into the Ontario booth, who's the next talking head joining the Kings for podcasts or color commenting? So I know Faust is on COVID protocol right now. That's why he hasn't been there, and Nick Nixon has for the Kings. And so I haven't seen any tweets from Rain PR regarding maybe COVID for the Rain announcers. But if they are looking for somebody to try to fill in for one game for color commentary, my email can be found at hockeyroyalty.com. Joe and I would love to do the combo game there. Give us a shot. Hockey Royalty, we got plenty of evidence of how awesome we are here. Good beards for the TV. And we'll be good to go. I mean, I know they can give that head a shine, and I'll get a nice haircut, so it's not anything fierce. But we'd love to come on there and give it a shot. And if it doesn't work out, it's AHL TV. Nothing, no harm, no foul. So let's move on to Rain Star of the Week. I'll let you take this one first, my man. Where are we going with Rain Star of the Week? And if you take mine, I don't have a backup. So
you know what? I could probably name any one of a handful because of how well that line has been playing that I've alluded to a few times today with Byfield, Velarde, and Madden. But I'm actually going to go with Matty Villalta because of the way he bounced back.
Awesome.
He gets 2 wins, and the only loss is in a shootout where he gives up the 1 goal. He's at a .946 save percentage over these 3 games. So to me, it's twofold. Like, one, it is he played 3 games in a short amount of time, two on a back-to-back. But also, and off of him missing a decent chunk of time, he missed a couple of weeks, right? So, or at least a week it was. So not only that, but also, like I said before, he also had a rough patch. Like he was going through a stretch where he's giving up 4 goals a game. So it wasn't just he was not playing great. He missed time, and now he's playing 3 games in 4 nights, and he answered the bell. 3 games in a row, 2 goals or less in every game. So I was very happy with this play. There's a lot because of the streaks and stuff for the guys that are putting points on the board. But I was very, very happy to see Matty Villalta come in and steady the ship between the pipes.
Yeah, I'm going to go with QB on this one. I think, and the big reason is the excitement, right? So it's been a rough season for Kings fans regarding seeing Quinton Byfield. Prospect envy is a huge thing, seeing Zagros across, and Joe and I have alluded to that people just need to get over it and focus on what we can control as fans. But you can't help but to want to see that number 2 pick, the shiny toy, come up and dominate. He looked like he was going to get a spot right at camp, gets injured, comes back, gets COVID, comes back, no points. And you're just like, man, is this going to take longer than what we thought? And, obviously there's a log jam on the Kings, but QB, man, having a 5-game point streak for these games, except for Abbotsford, with points or multiple points, showing why he's a number 2 overall pick, dominating a lot of facets, not only offensively, but defensively, puck hunting, and really driving that offense. And you saw it on his first goal of the season, which was in the last episode, just taking it wide. That guy one-on-one never stood a chance, buried the goal. You've seen him get that puck right in front of the crease. One deke goes, buries it up high on the goalie. The goalie had no chance. And so just really, you're seeing the confidence grow. The skating was there right away, and now the timing is starting to come. I only think it's a matter of time, as Richard is also excited about his multiple questions about Byfield, that he's up on the team. Kupari hasn't been playing badly, but the door is definitely open for Byfield to have an opportunity to earn a spot up there. And I think that we see that sooner rather than later.
No question. If people were beating down doors for Alex Turcotte, why wouldn't they for Byfield? I mean, it's not meant to be a knock on Turcotte, but Byfield is playing. He's a thoroughbred out there, and he's a dominant player, and he's producing. Like, I don't know what more you could ask for. But again, if they want to, again, he just got back conditioning. I get all that stuff. So I'm not saying he should necessarily has to be up tomorrow, but really soon he should be making his way up. And when we talk about the start of the week, do we just throw a disclaimer out like not named TJ Tynan, because by my count, he had 9 points in these 5 games we just talked about. So it's almost not even fair. Like, he, in theory, probably should be every week. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, when Ferk was up here, it was him or Ferk every week. So, we got to start talking about other people. Otherwise, people aren't going to tune in, right?
And Ferk, speaking of, he was back. There was some thought maybe he'd be available to play in the most recent game, but he didn't play. But I'd expect Ferk back on the next game on Saturday.
Yeah, so the upcoming games there, you're having at Saturday, January 22nd versus Tucson, the first of a back-to-back on the Saturday-Sunday out there with the Roadrunners, and then a weird day game on a Wednesday with San Jose. I don't know why they're doing these weird San Jose stuff, but a 10 a.m. game on Wednesday, the first of a back-to-back with San Jose there, where they play Thursday at 7 p.m., and then you have the Stockton Heat on Saturday. So 4 games next week. I know we're going to have another long one. I know we're coming up on 55 minutes here. Hopefully the Kings keep up the hot streak. The rain keeps up the hot streak. We're going to have a lot to talk about. For all you fans in there, we write tons of articles. Joe, I've written one. It's pretty good, so I only put out one a month because I don't want to waste my talent.
I liked it. It was really good.
With the prospect and everything like that. But that can all be found at hockeyroyalty.com. We're going to start be doing more live shows. Joe and I like this live stuff. Thank you guys for joining on. We're getting more fan interaction. That's what we want to have. So come on here, ask your questions. Joe and I typically, based on his hockey schedule, he's a coach. He has a beer league where he still puts up snipes on a daily basis. We want to try to do the shows on Wednesdays right around this time for you guys. So that way you can kind of throw it into your schedule. And we're going to be doing mainly rain stuff, but then you can throw in the King stuff and get our opinion, right? So that way you guys can listen to the Kings episodes, the rain episodes, and then we'll throw our little opinions in there because we're all excited about how the Kings are playing too. We're all want to see QB. We want to see if Chikrin's going to be wearing the black and silver by the end of the season. And so, throw all those questions in there. It's going to be subscribe, tell people to come on. We want to get a good group of people in here talking hockey every single week. And then if this starts getting flowing, we might do some pre and post games where, we can give the rain a little bit of a break and just talk about the game at hand for the Kings. We're trying to get more stuff out there on YouTube. So, and then for the same people who have been listening to our podcast that just do it, these episodes will still be available on those platforms. You're not going to see the questions being asked, but that's why we're going to try to say them out loud so you guys know why we're transitioning. And you guys can still listen to your car in traffic on the 405 for 6 hours on your way home from work. So, Joe, a pleasure. Oh, sorry for all you fans here about my camera. I know I'm not scouting in the KHL in Siberia here. Just got a new computer, trying to figure out all the stuff there and trying to get that dotted in. Joe's the better looking guy anyway, so that's why you have to clear a camera. But I'll try to get that fixed so you're not going into fits over there, seeing the weird static here. I live in Fort Worth. We're definitely in civilization. It's got to get that tuned up, and got the tune skate to get it going. So try to get that going for you guys. But Joe, another fantastic episode. Thank you guys for coming in. Logan, my brother in there in the chat, listening in. Appreciate you guys, CJ and Tom and all the rest of the guys that commented. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, just thank you to all the guys that popped in here, asked some questions. It was a blast, a lot of fun, and looking forward to do it again. Great questions, too. Love the interaction. It just makes everything so much more fun, doesn't it? So hope everybody enjoyed it.
Yeah, appreciate you guys, and see you guys next Wednesday. Thank you.